Imagine a world where towering mammoths thundered across frozen plains, where humans who were not quite us hunted, crafted, and struggled to survive, and where entire civilizations rose and vanished long before history was written. A world teeming with life, mystery, and danger, and yet it all disappeared. Bones buried in the earth, artifacts scattered like whispers, and stories lost to time. Some vanished quietly, their existence erased by slow changes in climate or dwindling resources. Others disappeared in sudden bursts of catastrophe fires, floods, and icy winters that wiped out entire populations. And then there are those whose end remains a riddle, leaving only fragments and DNA as clues to their existence. In this video, we explore 5 prehistoric species and tribes that once ruled the earth and then vanished forever. We will uncover not just who they were, but the shocking reasons they went extinct and what their disappearance reveals about survival, power, and the fragility of life itself. Our journey begins in the harsh, frozen landscapes of Ice Age Europe, with a human species whose story is both remarkable and tragic: the Neanderthals. The Neanderthals were not just figures in dusty textbooks. They were real people who lived, loved, and struggled to survive in the harsh landscapes of Ice Age Europe. Imagine a world dominated by glaciers, freezing winds, and predators far larger and hungrier than anything we face today. Neanderthals were perfectly adapted to this brutal environment. Their stocky, muscular bodies helped conserve heat, and their strong hands and keen eyes made them expert hunters capable of taking down mammoths, reindeer, and bison. But survival wasn't just about strength. Neanderthals had culture too. They made tools from stone and bone, crafted clothing from animal hides, and may have created symbolic art, jewelry, and even early forms of burial rituals. They lived in small, tight-knit groups, relying on cooperation and intelligence to endure in a world that could easily snuff out life in an instant. Yet, despite all their skill and ingenuity, the Neanderthals vanished. The reasons are still debated, but scientists point to a combination of factors. Climate shifts at the end of the Ice Age disrupted their food sources, forcing them into smaller, more isolated groups. Homo sapiens were expanding across Europe at the same time, competing for the same resources, possibly bringing new diseases and outcompeting Neanderthals in hunting and survival strategies. Some evidence even suggests interbreeding occurred, slowly blending Neanderthals into modern humans. By around 40,000 years ago, the Neanderthals had disappeared entirely, leaving behind only bones, tools, and the faint echoes of a people who once ruled a frozen world. Their story is both a testament to resilience and a haunting reminder. Even the strongest species can vanish when the world changes around them. While the Neanderthals struggled to survive in the icy expanses of Europe, another branch of humanity faced its own peril. Thousands of miles away, on a tiny, remote island in Indonesia, Homo floresiensis, often called the Hobbit people, were small in size, standing just over 3 feet tall, yet remarkably resourceful. Living in dense forests and rugged terrain, they crafted stone tools, hunted small animals, and adapted in ways that allowed them to thrive at least for a time. But Flores was a fragile world. Resources were scarce, the environment unpredictable, and nature's dangers always looming. Their isolation, which had allowed them to develop unique traits, also made them vulnerable. Changes in climate, dwindling food supplies, and catastrophic volcanic eruptions threatened their very existence. Unlike larger, widespread species, Homo floresiensis had no safety net. One disaster could wipe out generations. Over time, these tiny humans vanished, leaving only bones and tools behind, silent testaments to their ingenuity and struggle. Their disappearance is a stark reminder that survival depends not only on skill and intelligence, but also on circumstances beyond control, a theme echoed across the history of all species that have walked the earth. And as we leave the shadowed forests of Flores, our journey continues to a species even more mysterious, known only from fragments and whispers of DNA, whose story remains one of the greatest enigmas of human history, the Denisovans. Yet the deeper scientists dig into the past, the more they realize that the human story was never simple. Neanderthals and Homo floresiensis were not the only other humans who once shared this planet with us. Hidden in the mountains of Siberia, inside a cold and silent cave, researchers uncovered the faint traces of another mysterious branch of humanity, the Denisovans. Unlike Neanderthals, the Denisovans left behind almost no physical remains. A fragment of finger bone, A few teeth and scattered pieces of DNA are nearly all that remain of a species that may once have spread across vast parts of Asia. From these fragments, scientists have pieced together a portrait of a resilient people who survived in some of the harshest environments on Earth, including the high plateaus of Central Asia where oxygen is scarce and winters are brutal. But their disappearance remains one of prehistory's greatest mysteries. Some researchers believe the Denisovans existed in relatively small populations, making them vulnerable to environmental changes and competition. Others suggest that when modern humans expanded across Asia, the Denisovans were gradually absorbed to interbreeding rather than wiped out entirely. In fact, traces of Denisovan DNA still live on today in some modern human populations. In a strange way, the Denisovans may not have vanished completely. They may simply have become part of us. But while some ancient humans faded into our genes, others disappeared far more abruptly, leaving behind only the tools and traces of a once powerful culture. And nowhere is that mystery more striking than in the story of the Clovis people of North America, one of the earliest known human cultures to spread across North America. Thousands of years ago, long before cities or written history, the Clovis hunters moved across vast landscapes of grasslands, forests, and frozen plains. They were skilled survivalists, crafting beautifully shaped stone spear points that archaeologists still recognize today. With these tools, they hunted some of the largest animals that ever walked the continent: mammoths, mastodons, giant bison, and other massive Ice Age creatures. For generations, the Clovis culture flourished. Small bands of hunters followed migrating herds, adapting to the rhythms of a wild and unpredictable world. Their tools reveal intelligence, precision, and an understanding of their environment that allowed them to thrive in harsh conditions. But around 12,800 years ago, something changed dramatically. The end of the last ice age brought rapid climate shifts. Temperatures fluctuated, landscapes transformed, and many of the giant animals the Clovis hunters depended on began to disappear in what scientists now call the megafauna collapse. As mammoths and other massive creatures vanished, the Clovis way of life was pushed to the brink. Some researchers believe environmental chaos and dwindling prey forced Clovis groups to adapt or migrate, gradually transforming into new cultures. Others suggest catastrophic events may have accelerated their decline. Whatever the cause, the Clovis culture itself faded from the archaeological record, another chapter in humanity's long and fragile struggle for survival. And as the great Ice Age giants themselves began to disappear, one creature in particular would soon follow them into extinction: the mighty woolly mammoth. For thousands of years, these towering animals dominated the frozen landscapes of the Ice Age. Covered in thick fur and armed with enormous curved tusks, mammoths roamed vast grasslands that stretched across northern Europe, Asia, and North America. They were not just impressive creatures, they were a crucial part of their ecosystem. By grazing on grasses and trampling vegetation, mammoths helped shape the very landscapes they lived in, maintaining the open plains that many other species depended on. But even giants are not immune to change. As the Ice Age slowly came to an end, the world began to warm. The cold, dry grasslands that mammoths depended on gradually transformed into forests and wetlands. Their habitat shrank, and with it, the food sources that had sustained them for millennia. At the same time, a new and highly intelligent predator was spreading across these lands: humans. Early hunters, including cultures like the Clovis, targeted mammoths for their meat, bones, and hides. For small, struggling mammoth populations already under pressure from climate change, this additional hunting may have pushed them past the point of recovery. Over time, their numbers dwindled until the once mighty herds were gone. The last isolated populations survived on remote islands for a few thousand years more, but eventually they too vanished, leaving behind only frozen remains and ancient tusks buried beneath the tundra. From the resilient Neanderthals of Ice Age Europe to the tiny yet resourceful Homo floresiensis, from the mysterious Denisovans to the skilled hunters of the Clovis culture, and finally the mighty woolly mammoth, the story of prehistory is also a story of disappearance. Entire species and cultures once thrived, adapted, and fought to survive, only to vanish when the world around them changed. Their extinction reminds us of a powerful truth: survival is never guaranteed, no matter how strong, intelligent, or dominant a species may seem. But these five are only a small part of the ancient world that has been lost to time. In Part 2, we'll uncover even more prehistoric species and civilizations that mysteriously disappeared from the Earth. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and join us as we continue exploring the forgotten stories of our planet's vanished past.